Aiken. I'm the studio manager at Chairman Ting Industries. There we go. And before I begin the whole spiel of what I do, I'll just get into the background of how I got the job at the studio, which is a question I get asked pretty often. It's a little bit of an unconventional job. So I have a background in illustration. I come from a family of illustrators. Even though I studied business, I wanted to get in touch with the creative side of things. And this is just a sample of my recent art. So to get in touch with the creative side of things, I joined the UBC student newspaper, and I eventually started working there for about the first year, also as an assistant, and then became the print editor in 2 years. So 3 years in total, met a lot of great creatives, learned a lot about journalism, and a lot of these people here in the photo are great journalists today. So a little bit about the paper we worked at. Essentially, we publish one paper a week, 12 pages. We also do two yearly magazines and an 80-page guide. So basically, this was design 101 for me on steroids. As someone coming in only knowing how to draw, I learned the basis of print design and just design in general, working with printers, getting stuff done. It was a lot of management skills I learned here that I applied to work every day now. And you have to take account that you are accountable for what you do in this job, because we have circulation of 8,000 prints weekly. So if you are at UBC, you see your work everywhere and it's plastered. So the connection between this job and the job I have now, I was introduced to my current job by my friend Costa. He was photo editor at the time, and when he introduced me, he was working for Katie Ainsworth at Gray, also another amazing creative. He's currently a copywriter at Hootsuite, and he told me that Carson and our studio mate Hubert was looking for an intern. All they did was an Instagram post, and I thought, why not? It's my final year at UBC, might as well try to start looking to internships, see what I can do. So I sent Hubert an Instagram message. They have no idea who I am, never met me, only seen my work. And that led to emails, and eventually that led to an interview face to face. And I think it went pretty well, because after the interview, they asked me, when do I start? So I was definitely super surprised, not looking for a job, but very happy to get kind of an internship on the spot there. So during my final year at UBC, I spent the first semester working once a week with Carson and the rest of the studio mates. And I spent the second semester 3 times a week. And eventually they brought me on full-time as studio manager when I graduated. So to give you an idea of the stuff I do at work, it's honestly a little bit of everything. I've done design for supers, I've done illustration assistance, I put decks together, I get references. So obviously one of the first jobs you get going into the office. And keep in mind, everything that I'm saying is from a freelance perspective. Personally, I've only heard of the agency world and I have not worked there myself, but we do work together with agencies. End of the day, Carson is a freelancer, and that's slightly different. So everything I say, please keep that in mind. So one of the first tasks I got as an intern, after I went through kind of the very basic things to kind of prove I could actually do something, was that I got this blueprint for a gaming company. And Carson and I didn't quite know how to decipher the numbers, the measurements, but what I had to do was read the blueprint, do some cross multiplication math to kind of get the measurements together, and then create a template on Adobe Illustrator where Carson can drop his artwork in and show the client. Now, each portion of these blue boxes are a different aspect that we had to do a mural on. So this was definitely a big project. And just an example of how strange my tasks can be, just doing math equations to get the right measurements, which is essentially what I also do today. So what I do isn't different. I just take on more responsibilities because I understand what happens at the beginning and the end of the process now. So we'll be talking more about my job, but using more concrete examples by incorporating and telling you guys more about the technology we use at work. So also more context. When I say studio and when I say studio mates, you must be wondering, who the heck is this Hubert guy I was talking about? And who are these studio mates I'm mentioning? So our studio, Chairman Ting Industries, is a member of a studio collective. So when we say studio, we mean all 5 of us. You can see here, which hopefully you can see my arrow. We have Annie. She is the amazing surface pattern designer, and you can find a lot of her patterns on Crate and Barrel. Oh, approved. Got a message. Are you still doing okay? I'm assuming nobody's telling me anything, so we're going to be doing okay so far. We'll continue talking. So we have our studio mate, Annie, great designer.
Aiken, your screen is on the wrong slide.
Am I on the wrong slide? Is it sharing properly?
No, it doesn't seem to be.
Oh, sharing is paused. Bring your window to the front. That's so strange. Let's. You are screen sharing. Stop share.
That should be better now.
Yeah? Are we at the page with a bunch of photos of dogs?
Yes.
Okay. And oh, so apparently it's not letting me share full screen. So sorry, guys. I'll just have to share it like this, so it'll be a little bit smaller. Okay, so I guess I'll keep going from here. So again, studio mate Annie right here, amazing pattern designer. She designs fabrics and product design. And we also have her husband over here, Hubert, which is the individual I mentioned before. He is a photographer and has worked on shoots all over the world for Fairmont Hotels, Lululemon, Nike, super talented guy, and also the other guy, individual that I manage in the studio. So I'm the studio manager for both Carson and Hubert. And we have Leah here. She is a digital guru and literally sunshine in human form, because you can see she's just super fun. Hot dog costume there with a matching hot dog costume for her dog Miso, the corgi. So she and Carson met at Rethink, and she recently joined our studio. So context here, when I mean studio, I mean these wonderful individuals here and their wonderful pets, which we just play with most of the time. I think 30% of my job is just playing with the dogs. So back to the topic at hand, technology at work. Obviously, one of the most easiest ways to incorporate our artwork is to use AR, augmented reality. We haven't tampered with VR since it's just the drawing process, finding someone to edit our files. It's the implementation barriers are a lot higher because you do have to get the headset and the whole thing set up. So we have focused our efforts into incorporating a lot of augmented reality into our work. And since we have existing murals and the existing vector files for it, it works with drawings that we've done in the past and any drawings we've done in the future. It's a super easy thing to incorporate. For example, this was an illustration for the Vancouver Mural Fest, and Carson worked with his friend Kenji at Gamomo Labs, where he kind of implemented Carson's artwork into the augmented reality version here. And when you put your phone on it, it moves and it's animated and super awesome. But the big thing that we get from clients is how do you really incorporate that and give your brand an advantage so it's not just a fun gimmick that you use once and don't really get much out of it. So recently, Instagram, they've done the face filters for a while, but brands have recently really honed on to it and taken an advantage of how they can incorporate these filters to engage with consumers meaningfully with their brand. So as you can see here, local Vancouver company, Aritzia, has their logo on the woman's face. Coca-Cola, Tiffany, it's all different ways that you can incorporate artwork into the augmented reality space, and art stuff perfectly fits in realms like these. So this is just an example of how we've incorporated our artwork into the augmented reality space. So in addition to different types of technology that's digital, which is the first thing that people think about, there's also print technology. So printing has developed and improved so much, and we've worked with so many fantastic printers into really making new ways of engaging with audiences at meetings and conferences. which unfortunately is not something we can do now, but it's something that people really value. It's a next level of interaction that you can use beyond digital. So here, this is a presentation run by the GDC, Graphic Designers Canada, and in collaboration with Mitchell Press, a great local Burnaby press company and printing company. They created a vinyl mural, which, as you can see from here, the base are two characters staring at each other, but on top we have created a set of stickers where there's different prompts for people who have joined the presentation, and then afterwards they can rip off a sticker from the mural and take it away as a prompt for what they want to improve on. So lots of different layers of interaction. It's relatively simple, but this is a piece of tech, printing tech that people have not offered yet. So the people at Mitchell, great to work with, always get in touch with the printers and see what cool things they're up to. And lastly, this is one of the most important bits, kind of the pieces of technologies we've embraced recently and in the past to make the working online situation, especially now, a little bit more easier for everyone. So one of my first tasks coming into the studio was obviously I am first and foremost project manager. So I help Carson manage his timelines and make sure that clients get everything at the right deadline. At first, I'd say Asana was the obvious choice for me. I used it when I was working with the UBC Department of Engineering for their nonprofit group. Worked great for a large group. But however, for project managing, honestly, it's only Carson and myself. So we don't need to use something that intense, and it's just something that Carson wasn't used to using. So we use Google Calendars, easy to implement. It's a system we're all familiar with. You can share with other people, and you have a Hangout link right there. So that's worked great for us. Slack, another no-brainer. We've really enjoyed it, and I've had a lot of fun converting my coworkers, my studio mates at work, teaching them how to use Slack and send gifts and all fun stuff like that. So that's been working great for us. Two more things that are a little bit uncommon. Adobe Acrobat. People use it for viewing PDFs, but it's also great for signing contracts, especially if you've done projects like me where you're managing about 40 different model releases and you need them to sign at very specific places and making sure they sign the right contract because each of the models have a slightly different contract. So take advantage of the small features that Adobe does offer, like emailing and signing, so it makes the areas clear. It seems intuitive, but you would be surprised to know how many people have screwed up contracts by just not reading or not signing or just printing their name. It's very strange, so take advantage. Last of all, this is a game changer, and it's a tip from Carson at Rethink. They use Google Slides for your decks. A lot of decks are built with Adobe InDesign or Adobe Illustrator to make them look really nice. But if you're working with a large team, the biggest thing is you want to get it out on time and make it accessible for everyone editing. So if you build your decks on Google Slides, everyone can work on it all at once. You can type at different parts. It's a great collaboration tool to make sure you have a really solid deck go out really quickly. So going to some of the notable projects. These are projects that we've done recently and I've just gotten big takeaways from them. The first and foremost is the Hope mural from the Vancouver Mural Festival. So this was at the beginning of the pandemic when the lockdowns just started and Carson was asked to do a mural for the Vancouver Mural Fest in one of the stores. This was definitely a project that we did on the smaller side. Carson just designed something real quick, sprayed it up. We didn't think it would gain that much traction, but I think this is one of the biggest projects or the most published projects. It was on magazines that we didn't know it was going to be on magazines for, because I think passerbys just took photos and then publishers got a hold of those photos. So it was a lot of great publicity here. Definitely just an example of how something small can turn into some big opportunity. Second one of my favorites is the project we did with the Whitecaps soccer team in Vancouver. This is It Takes a Village, and it was a fundraiser for the Vancouver Aquarium. All proceeds went to them. It eventually turned into beer packaging. As you can see, we also have a photo of Bonnie Henry, who was gifted one of the prints as well. We raised so much money for this project. It kept going. I think it was 250,000 and the numbers kept going up. So a lot of good was done there. And we did this in the middle of the pandemic when we were wondering how can we contribute to helping people during this pandemic. Oh, and excuse me, wasn't for the Vancouver Aquarium. It was for the Vancouver Food Bank. That was for another project. So it was crazy how much we could help just by doing art, and it was great for everyone at the studio because we all collaborated together on this project. And last but not least, the most exciting one we did was for Snoop Dogg. We worked on his Vancouver release, or the Canadian release of his wine in collaboration with 19 Crimes. This was a life-size golden Snoop Dogg with a custom neon light and a custom cork stand. It was featured in all the BC liquor stores, and it's going to be featured in a few other liquor stores across Canada. Definitely a super fun project and worth noting, and it won an award on Applied Arts, which is super awesome for us. And it was done in a month. I think we got the brief at the beginning of the month, and then we got the statue by the end of the month. So definitely crazy for everyone involved, and it's just amazing what you can do with a good team. So just the big takeaways I've learned from my first year in the job, and honestly working a few more years as studio manager. Big thing that everyone mentions is make sure that you're selling yourself. Again, this is from the perspective of a freelancer, but you would be surprised to know how many industry veterans still don't price themselves fairly. And not only does this hurt the industry as a whole, but it's just not fair to the individual. So obviously, when you're pricing, take a note of the hard costs, the different types of printing expenses, the materials you're using in the project itself. Those are the things that everyone talks about. But one of the bigger costs that as a creative is that you are running your own business. So half the time in the office, Hubert and Carson and Annie, they're all talking about taxes and how to best take away and get the most out of filing their taxes. So if you need to hire an accountant, all those expenses, if you need a bookkeeper, if you have software to keep track of everything and the time you take if you're doing your own bookkeeping, make sure you account for all of those costs too, because people who are taking contracts from companies working as freelancers, they oftentimes don't account for all of that, and they also don't account for the lack of benefits that they get. You get no healthcare, and that's all handled on your own. So make sure you account for all those costs. And make yourself easy to find. This is easier said than done, and I'm definitely guilty of this myself. But so many of the projects inquiries we get are from people that Carson have met in the past, obviously, because he's such an industry veteran, but also through LinkedIn, through the Vancouver Mural Festival directory, through different types of collaborations and fundraisers he's done. So definitely take advantage of that, but also balance your own self-worth and don't do it for the publicity. So those are my big takeaways. I hope you guys stay safe, and I hope these tips helped.
Thanks, Aiken. Let's open up the floor to some questions. I know we have a couple here. You manage so many files, and I'm sure this year especially because you guys have been super busy. Any personal tips for getting organized?
For sure. Sometimes I just feel like I'm so overwhelmed by the emails, I don't even know where to start. So honestly, I found like the most useful thing, I have a book and it's written with all the things I have to do for the day. So immediately when I get an email or when I get a task from Carson or Hubert on what to do, I write it down. It's right in front of me. It's easy to use. I've used different apps before, but just to get them open, or if I lose a file, I tend to like to have everything tactile through paper. So definitely writing everything down and then doing it immediately is my biggest organization strategy, which has been working so far. So I'm going to go with that.
Okay, good job. It's still paper and a pen still seem to be the best way to stay organized, even with all the digital tools. I know you are a studio manager working for an illustrator and photographer, but what is your inspiration for that you go to for your illustrations?
Yeah, so I am a big fan of portrait illustrations. I have a few that I've looked up to. There's one called, I can't pronounce her name, Sao Ron Cheng, and hopefully I might be able to send some links to the people I look up to, but a lot of illustrators I follow on Instagram, and also Carson himself is a great piece of inspiration. Also Hubert, just photography and art go hand in hand, and the composition of it is very useful as well. And Behance is a great tool to just kind of scope out what people are doing. It's people have done a great job presenting themselves there, and you get to know what the industry is doing. And also joining talks like these. So I don't have set pieces of inspiration per se, but I'm always looking for different types of exposing myself to as many people as possible. So these are mostly just platforms of how I can find these people, especially local Canadian people through organizations like Applied Arts.
Okay, excellent. You know, any tips you can give about getting an internship as a freelance graphic artist?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the big part is when you're sending off a cold call or an email, don't think that there's a robot on the other side. Oftentimes, we do take emails, and Carson takes out time from his day to just chat with people. Not less so now because obviously because of COVID, but he would take them to the coffee shop next door, talk to them, get them connected with people in the industry. So going on maybe LinkedIn or advertising directories or award shows, finding a list of agencies you want to go to and setting goals for yourself, even if they turn you down, getting feedback and developing on that is so important. Prior to the studio, I also went to an agency called 123 West, interviewed there and got some feedback and improved on it. So even if you get rejected, as long as you're meeting people face to face, slowly you're going to get an internship because people, once you're in the industry, people will start to know your name. And if you be persistent enough, they'll see that you have the grit and passion to get into this industry.
Yeah, and it is a really small industry as well. And I think the more you can get around, the better. And I think just, you know, keep reaching out to people for advice.
Totally.
How does social media figure into your career?
So personally, I am not a big fan of social media. I know a lot of people my age are. It's just it takes so much time out of your time. It's addictive. But in the industry, it is very important, and learning about the algorithm and what the new platforms are doing is also equally as important. So the best way to learn that is to be a user. Instagram, for example, what I said earlier with the whole face filters, they're releasing so many different days and things every day, and they've all recently released the store feature where you can buy things directly through Instagram. It's such a big part. I can't emphasize that enough. And Leah, our digital media guru in the studio, I don't know how she keeps up with it. So when you are just procrastinating on your phone going through Instagram, don't think of it as you mindlessly doing so. Do it with some intention. Learn as a designer what they're doing with the platform and how you can explain this to your clients next time when you are doing, for example, an illustration pitch and you want them to build upon your art and use it more often. We'll pitch them how they're going to do it, but do the roadmap to how and give them a visual of how everything's going to work, because sometimes you have to really give them a vision, explain it to them, and that's how you really sell your stuff.
Thank you, Aiken. That was a good point there. We have another question. What would you say to a student wanting or thinking about pursuing a career in graphic design?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, this is a hard one because I feel like I always am stuck in the student mentality because I'm just working with so many industry veterans all around me, especially in Vancouver. Everyone in Vancouver is super talented, and it's hard as a person starting out to really tap into that market. Um, someone who's starting out, I would say again, reach out. And once you have your foot in the door, especially in Vancouver, I'm not sure what the case would be in other cities, especially in the East, but I think everywhere, and especially in Vancouver, it is a small industry. So once you have your foot in the door and you're persistent, and if you can take feedback nicely, um, the opportunities will come to you if you continue at it. And make sure you're okay with changing and adapting your style. We've had a lot of interns come in and apply, and it's been great seeing how they improve themselves. because they might have a style they're married to, but seeing that the industry is looking for something else, they have changed and they adapt. So always be willing to change, and while maintaining some sort of truth into your style and doing what you want to do, because at the end of the day, you have to love your design and your art. You can't do what just the market wants you to do, but there's always a balance of it.
Excellent point, Aiken. I think that is all of the questions we have. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A. Otherwise, I think we'll just wrap up today's session. Thank you so much, Aiken, for sharing your experience. We appreciate your time. Also, to everyone, as you start the application process or are just wanting to explore where your talents fit in the creative industry, be sure to visit creativefutures.ca. Thank you. We have 2 sessions scheduled for tomorrow morning at 10 and 11 a.m. So if you haven't registered already and you plan to join us, you can visit creativefutures.ca and just click on speaker series and register for the November 18th events. Thank you again, Aiken.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.